I want to cover hydration, which I feel is very important. I didn't get a chance to cover that particular subject in my previous video for reasons where the storage on my camera was running out. That, or I forgot if it was the battery running out. I don't know, one of the two that happened. But you know, overall, if you really think about it, there's a lot of people who say, I'm very hydrated. You know, I drink a lot of water, and you know, I drink 2 gallons of water a day. And I ask them, well, are you peeing, you know, a lot? They're like, oh yeah, you know, I could tell I'm hydrated. I'm peeing very clear. See, this is not even favorable for you, because in a sense, when you pee very clear, this is not helping your kidneys at all. You know what I'm saying? This is why sometimes when you dry fast, it actually stimulates your kidneys to filter waste. Yet when you're drinking water, and drinking water, that's not hydrating you, because it's no different than when you have a pot, you know, a plant, and you just dump a whole gallon of water in there. Now, on a hot day, it don't matter if you dump 2 gallons of water in a potted plant. It's going to drip right out the bottom. And the same way your piss looks clear, the water looks very clear coming out of the pot as well. Now, your body, for example, being very acidic and in an unfavorable condition, you're not absorbing the water. The water is just going right through you the same way it's going through the potted plant. Now, when you have a drip irrigation system, the plant is actually absorbing that water. You know what I'm saying? Because it's giving it in dripping doses. Now, the reason I say, and I've always used the analogy of fruits being like a drip irrigation system, is the sense that this is basically the right water that's going in you. See, even the water that you drink in your gallons or in your bottled water or whatnot, it's filled, but people say it's alkaline water, but it's alkalized with inorganic minerals. So these things the body doesn't recognize. No different than when you take vitamins. When you take vitamins, you notice how you pee nuclear yellow whenever you pee. And the reason why is, for one, the body doesn't recognize these vitamins as organic or natural food, so it tends to expel the waste out. And the pills actually have a half-life, which means that most of it ends up coming out through your waste anyway. Again, why you pee nuclear yellow. So whenever you're drinking, you know, so-called alkaline water, this water is actually alkalized with inorganic minerals. The body doesn't recognize it, and it tends to dirty your filters to some extent, but you end up not really utilizing these electrolytes, so they're inorganic, right? When you have fruits such as watermelons, grapes, you know, these foods that are very hydrating, they're very water based. They're actually the right water, okay? And aside from them being the right water, they're actually mineral packed with the right organic minerals. See, when I have a watermelon growing in my garden, and I've used no synthetic fertilizers, and I've used all organic matter, you have to think about this. The chemistry that's happening, the sunlight hitting the leaves, it's actually bringing all the sugars to that watermelon, and it's actually packing it with all the sweetness of life into that watermelon. And along with that, all the nutrients and minerals are coming from the soil, and it's actually mulched and covered with the right organic matter, such as wood chips, grass clippings, whatever it may be that you're using to keep the hydration of that soil proper and balanced, and keeping the temperature balanced as well. See, because any crazy fluctuations between like hydration and temperature might affect the fruit to some extent, where if it goes through a dry period and then all of a sudden a heavy rain comes down, or the gardener decides to water the plant because it notices that it's dehydrated, this is what causes the pressure inside the fruit to build up, and sometimes the melons may even burst. You get what I'm saying? So in order for everything to be properly working perfectly in homeostasis, everything has to maintain a perfect balance of moisture in the root system, perfect balance of temperature in the root system, so that the microbes do their job as far as breaking down organic matter, and this is what the readily available nutrients for the roots to uptake to the plant, in turn bringing it to the fruit, will actually be. So with that being said, this is why you know, when I look at that chemistry happening, that watermelon is nothing but a big ball of life force. Okay, again, the nutrients coming from the roots, the energy from the sun bringing all the sweetness of life, all that sugar into the fruit. When that fruit ripens up, and then that little tendril, like a dynamite stick, hits that the bottom of that stem. I mean, that's basically the moment that I cut into that watermelon. That's pure life force energy that I'm taking. Now I can cut it up into pieces, put it in a container, seal it up, put it in the refrigerator. That's the life force that I preserved there. And every time I eat that, I'm properly hydrating my body, like the drip irrigation system that you would put in a plant for it to absorb all that water. For one, the right distilled water is there. Distilled water has a cleansing effect, so it cleanses your body like you clean the filters on a car and then you put new fluids in, right? So people say, well, distilled water, you know, takes all the minerals out of your body. Yeah, it takes out the inorganic minerals out of the body. It cleans out your filters, things that connect, that leach onto your body that don't belong there, that start to calcify there over time. So then these minerals will take the place of the inorganic minerals, because the distilled water cleansed out your body. It corrected the pH in your system. All right, so now, aside from all that, aside from the hydration, you're intaking the life force. This is high vibrational food. It's high vibrational energy. But then again, that all doesn't matter. The whole thing is the state of being you're in, and how you receive this food is all that really matters anyway. But if you can actually feel the gratitude and the appreciation and that satisfaction of actually growing it yourself, to actually say, man, I grew this, and then you intake that because you grew with so much love, you don't think that that's all going right back into you in the exact same way that plant was having a certain experience in your garden. It wasn't going through moments where, you know, it was going through dehydration periods. Like, it was actually a balanced lifestyle for that plant. So that plant gave you some beautiful fruit, and you intake that fruit. I mean, that's a beautiful exchange of energy. Water, for example, holds memory. I mentioned that in the previous video, where you can have memory of how you're taught in school as a child, where the word education means educare, which means to bring out. You bring them out of their natural state. See, because you can learn memory by memorizing, right? Or as a child, you're not really memorizing, like logically, the way they try to teach you in school through those precious years between the ages of 1 through 7, to go to school and, you know, basically learning to be a slave, but more or less like you're absorbing the environment. So between the ages of 1 through 7, you're more in that theta brainwave state. So it's a lower vibrational state in the mind, in the brain. And this is more or less, you're absorbing the vibrations and frequency. And then the educare, which means to bring out, they take you out of that state, put you more left brain to logic, reasoning, language, problem solving. And they change that brainwave state aggressively, and they bombard you with homework and whatnot. But think about this, memories have pros and cons. Like, if I have memory of something, I can hold grudges, I can hold on to a belief system of history that has nothing to do with me, like Black History Month and whatnot, and, you know, Independence Day, all these little things that have nothing to do with me. And it just holds me, it binds me to something that doesn't even exist. Because I mentioned in the previous video, which you can go watch, how do I know any of these things even exist? How do I know that life didn't start the moment that I was born into this world from my mother's womb, where I was all water? I was 100% water. And notice how adults, they start to solidify little by little. And they get older, they get more stiff, they get more rigid, Kids are more malleable, more flexible, even through their adolescent phase. And then you have the adults who are not only just more stiff and rigid, but even more narrow-minded. See, like kids, they're more open-minded. They're more open to all possibilities until we start indoctrinating them to the limitations, and it's not even like that. That's why I'm real big on maintaining that balanced mind state. You know, I mean, hydration. The water, you program the water. This is the thing. This is why if you go back and watch my video, the real tea of the gods, it's not just the mixture of the concoction of the recipes, but it's basically the programming of this water that happens beforehand. What my intention truly is before, and my state of being toward it would be. Okay. You know, as far as hydration goes, the more solid food you eat, because this is the thing, I've worked in the supplement industry, in the nutrition industry, people actually eat very omega-6 driven foods, very cooked, solid, dead foods. If you ever hear you are what you eat, and you're eating a lot of the dead meat and a lot of the stiff foods, a lot of the dry dead foods, I mean, what do you think is going to happen? You know? Now, the more water foods you eat, especially if you can grow it yourself, I mean, see, the body is you're not the body. Okay, and don't think that when you grow your own food or you start to do these certain practices that you're going to be more spiritual, because it's not. It's all starting from you first reprogramming your mind from the garbage that you've been indoctrinated in. If you were indoctrinated into certain things, you know, auditing your belief systems and why you believe in those things to begin with. And you'll see that it's not where you're going to be in the position where you say, I'm going to grow my own food, I'm going to get out into nature, and I'm going to do all these things because I'm going to be more spiritual. But no, the fact that you reprogram your subconscious mind, you reprogram yourself a certain way, these things will just be naturally happening in your life, where you may start a garden, you may not know nothing about gardening, and it would just happen. You would just be like, wow, you know? Like, I know this is what happened to me when I started my garden. I never intended to make a garden, but the fact that I started to literally become more spiritual, then this kind of was like an after effect of what happened. I ended up moving out of the city, moving to the south, and, you know, just basically seeing how I feel about this whole thing. I wouldn't change anything about it. Now it's about certain things that I want to do as far as advancing myself in a stability sense of the word, you know. People talk about being more spiritual, but if you think about it, all this debating between the white man and the black man and the government, and these are all physical things. I believe being more spiritual has a lot more to do with self-love and self-acceptance, and knowing that you're playing this game by your motherfucking self, and this whole entire reality that you perceive is you pushed inside out. And however you see your reality is basically what is happening within you metaphysically. The reason I say this is this: a lot of people only go by seeing is believing, okay? But believing is actually seen, in a sense where if you know that you see something physical, is all due to what's actually happening metaphysically. So you'll know that that is actually there physically because of something metaphysical. So that's why I say, if and I mentioned this, I think 2 videos ago. It's not, when I mentioned the meat eating part, it's not where you say, I'm gonna stop eating meat to be more spiritual. It may just be where you became more spiritual, so you just don't crave that kind of food anymore. You know? Hydration, I'll tell you right now, is very, very important. Proper pH is very, very important. Because here's the thing though, if your body is nature and you want to get an understanding of how all this really works, just think of it like an actual tree. The tree is absorbing the sunlight, all right, and it's bringing all that light down to that mycelium network intertwined in the root system. In turn, that root system is feeding the tree from up above. There's a symbiotic relationship happening there. You have something called B12 in your gut, which is literally not a vitamin, it's a bacteria. But your body has to be in tune with nature, because if that bacteria is something, you see, you're interacting with bacteria every day. You shake people's hands, you touch surfaces, that's all bacterial. Viruses, all that kind of shit. And your body processes these things. That's why they say what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. So if your body is weak and not primed to be able to process this, these things may even kill you. So the way you're supposed to be in tune with nature is these bacteria, all this diversity of bacteria is supposed to live within you. But if your environment inside your body looks like Mars, then how can you have humans? That's like if I put people in Mars, people can't live in Mars. So that's why I say, like, it's all about proper pH, the proper conditioning, proper hydration, right? If not, you're gonna have your fruits bursting. Your melons will start to burst everywhere. And once that happens, you're gonna have all the bugs are gonna be jumping all over that, because that's now part of the decomposition process. It ain't ready to eat, it's ready to decompose now once it's all open in the air and all exposed to the environment, right? So the hydration part, it's not all water. It's basically, it's fruits, it's water foods in particular. And I believe this is the best way to cleanse your body. And then you have herbs. All right, the herbs actually emit a certain frequency. Your organs emit a certain frequency. And then if you get to learn herbology, learn your land, then you would know that certain herbs of a certain frequency can harmonize with certain organs of a certain frequency, and you harmonize, all right, and neutralize certain diseases that are happening within your body. Because most of the time, diseases are due to acidic environments. So what do? You neutralize it with water. You don't fight fire with fire in that aspect. So that's why herbs are powerful. That's why food is a drug, or it could be a medicine. Food is a drug if you're addicted to it. It's a medicine if you use it with intent to cleanse and hydrate yourself. But don't forget, these things aren't above you. All these things are tools, which can be detrimental or they could be very beneficial for you. But they're not above you. You see, you're the source, you're the consciousness. Everything is possible because of your consciousness. That's the medium of everything even happening. So don't matter if it's favorable or unfavorable, you're the one making it happen. Nothing is above you. These are just tools. But if you notice your vessel, it has a problem, then you need a certain tool to fix it. Just like if I have a problem in my car, I need certain tools to replace certain parts, or, you know, put a new part in. You still need a tool. So what are these foods? These foods are tools to help you. And then there's certain things that may hurt a car just like it may hurt your body. Like I may want to drive a lot faster if I'm a racer, right? I may use nitric oxide. But then what happens if I blow a head gasket, if I blow a cylinder, a valve ring? I mean, it's because I went out of pressure. I went out of balance. You know, the compression ratio, I put too much, you pressurize the motor too much, then something breaks, right? So that's what happens. Certain things you want to eat, take caffeine, certain stimulants a certain way, you blow a gasket, then what happens? You know? Do you know how to fix that? Or now do you depend on something to fix it for you? Like doctors. Which doctors, like if you have a check engine light on your car, I mean, it's basically you say, I have a check engine light. A doctor says, okay, you have check engine light, click, I cut the light. No more check engine light, you came for a check engine light. See, a person who takes responsibility for their health, or you want to go into the holistic way of doing it, it's like putting the car on a scan tool, find out the trouble codes, and boom, you change the part because you have the proper tools. Socrates said, let thy food be thy medicine be thy food. But Food and Drug Administration is in the same category for that reason, because food could be a drug or it could be a medicine, but it depends how you use it. It's just like words. Words, they can destroy you or they can empower you. But then if you don't know how to use words, then of course you have the right to remain silent, because anything you say can and will be used against you in the court or the game of life, which, you know, it's a mental game at the end of the day anyway. I mean, it's a mental game. It's all in your mind, right? But your mind can also be a tool, or it could be a detriment to you. And if you don't know how to use your mind, then it may be used against you as well. So, and I'm gonna tell you right now, you have all the power for one reason, is that you are the star of this show. You're the star of this movie. Everything else is just extras, including the thoughts that come into your mind. It's like they're auditioning. You're the casting director, and you decide to cast certain thoughts by entertaining them, and then they get a role in your movie. You end up playing that role, and then that's it. You get lost into thinking that you forgot you were the casting director, and you got lost in that drama and shit, you know. So, man, that's all I wanted to cover in this video. So we'll talk soon.